Hey, how are you? Kumusta po kayo? And thanks for tuning in to another edition of Paul Presents Art. So my name is Paul and I'll be your guide today. And today I brought you over to the Equinox Gallery here in Vancouver, which is of course built on the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations to have a look at a new suite of oil paintings by local artist Ben Reeves. So we're gonna go inside the gallery momentarily. I hope you can join me for the tour and let's get to it. We've just entered the gallery, and the exhibition is titled Fictions. Before we get into that, let me share a short biography on the artist. Ben Reeves is known for his sumptuous use of paint in compositions that explore the relationship between abstraction and representation. His work is actively engaged with the theory of painting, raising questions about the authenticity of imagery, while remaining deceptively traditional. Many of his works appear to borrow generously from 19th century realism, yet they are meticulously conceptual. Reeves' work asserts that the painted image is a vocabulary of brushstrokes, a culturally understood visual language. If you're new to the channel, I just want to say that this channel is dedicated to art, exhibitions in contemporary, historical, and outsider art, group shows, art collections, etc. I live in Vancouver, Canada, so most of my videos will be based in that region and nearby areas, but I also cover exhibitions as I travel. This first work is titled Outlet Mall 2025 Oil on Canvas 14 by 18 inches. I just want to say that all the works are from 2025 and oil on canvas. So from this moment on, I'll simply share the title and the dimensions of each work. The titles are descriptors of what's being depicted, which makes it easier for visual dissemination. While the visual representation is highly skilled and compelling, there is a conceptual edge to his work, as I shall soon unravel as we go along. I've been following Ben Reeves' work for a few decades now, since I first saw it in 1997, and these works are on the smaller scale. We'll go through each work, and I hope to share some thoughtful insights regarding the artist and the works. Next we have Commuter, 16 by 20 inches, which I feel has been influenced by the group of seven painters, a group of white male painters in the early 20th century who executed their works on plein air in the wilderness of Ontario. Their impressionistic painting style permeates throughout the Canadian artistic landscape, with variations influenced by weather, locale, and geographic topography. For this particular work, the lushness of the leaves, the suggestion of movement, and the sunlight dancing on the leaves gives homage to the group of seven, while proposing a contemporary scene of street life in an urban, even suburban setting. And I feel the same goes for this next work, Rest Stop, 11 by 14 inches, but with a pronounced narrative of contemporary urban life, as is suggested by the title. In many parts of British Columbia, the lush and wet rainforest is inescapable and defines how nature is depicted in paintings. Now, one might surmise that these works were painted on site or in situ, but that is further from the truth. The show's title, Fictions, hints at the conceptual framework that Reeves' paintings try to achieve, and in some measure conceal. The synthesis of natural and urban picturesque is a ruse that benefits the viewer more than the artist. It's not an intentional concealment, or is it? Aren't artists entitled to keep some secrets, even for a time? Anyhow. We now move on to Angel, 24 by 18 inches, whose influence makes me think of contemporary Northern European sensibilities of urban life, where the subdued light of winter months lends an air of darkness and, at times, melancholy. In terms of stylistic influences, the Canadian born Scottish artist Peter Doig is used as a reference point, especially in a painting like this one, but so does the German artist Daniel Richter. My point is that Northern Hemispheric sensibilities are at play here, possibly influenced by the similarities in light, topography, social sensibilities, and in some degree, the natural environment. However, the impact of the Canadian wilderness is a very strong influence that differentiates our aesthetic and artistic sensibilities with other Northern Hemispheric locations. Just a theory I find relevant. Moving right along to the next line of paintings is Jeep, 18 by 24 inches. Life in a rainforest is, well, damp. I wear prescription glasses, and I also cycle around the city regardless of the weather. When it's drizzly, water droplets form on my glasses and distorts my view of the horizon. This painting feels that way to me. I get to see multiple perspectives, blurred visions, and a microscopic universe. This body of work, and those like it, in my opinion, was a breakthrough in the artist's oeuvre of looking at painting as a layered illusion, with parallel and intersecting planes of existence. The glass is but one reality of many, and the raindrops a microcosm unto itself. This next work is titled Neighbor's Lily, 24 by 18 inches. There is a locationality, is that even a word? I made it up. Okay, vernacular then, that presides over Reeves' work. Some sites are predictable, as they are in some way picturesque, like mountain views, while others seem geographically banal. One wonders how the artist is inspired to paint a landscape or vista. How does he choose the location in theory? Putting aside the fact that these are fictional locations, I once asked the artist many years ago how he chooses a location. He may not remember this, because it was many, many years ago. But he said, I throw a dart at the map and go where it lands. I thought that was brilliant. Simple methods bring complex engagements. And with this particular work, it's likely what he remembers of the neighbor's lilies, or even what he imagines them to be when they're in bloom. In essence, they've become conceptual lilies. Moving on is Exhibition, 18 by 24 inches. I don't see many interior scenes like this. It seems like an endless loop of sorts, of us, the viewers, looking at a painting of a couple in a gallery looking at a painting. There's a trick of perspectives being played here. Zero in on the globby paint and determine where it belongs and which parallel plane it takes you, and you'll discover a multiplanar perspective. Do you see it? But I think it's one of those tropes that suggest parallel planes of existence, perhaps even a multiverse, if we were to think in science fiction terms. There's that word again, fiction. From the press release, the artist commented on being inspired by American writer and theater critic Hilton Als, who asserts that, and I quote, fiction is a product. It can be a painting, or an essay, or the book you are holding in your hands at the moment you are reading it. We produce stories because we are all stories, unquote. Moving right along is Bank Office, 20 by 16 inches. And judging from the composition of this particular painting, I'd like to mention the influence of local artist Robert Young, who taught painting and drawing at the University of British Columbia, where Reeves got his BFA. Toward the end of Young's teaching career, he taught a generation of artists, including Ben Reeves, and I see this work as an homage to Young, especially after his passing in 2023. The picture's angular perspective, the blocky architectural detail of the window, the texturing on the walls, all seem to reference Young's architectonic and at times brutalist style of creating spatial planes and textures within a painting. Young was an intelligent, kind, and sympathetic person whose influence in art is remembered with fondness. And of course, being in Vancouver, one can't really escape the rain for any length of time. It doesn't rain all the time, but enough. Next up is Truck, 16 by 20 inches. And surprise, we have a clear, sunny day with blue skies, near a highway it seems. Shall we say suburban picturesque or rural evocations for this composition? Remember I mentioned earlier about the dart game with a map? Well, this composition would certainly qualify toward the conceptual rigor of that aforementioned artistic strategy. Imagine setting yourself up with your painting easel in the middle of a highway intersection. Noisy, yes. Brave, possibly. Crazy, sure. Romantic, not really. There's also something oddly delicious about this composition, where the backdrop of snow-capped mountains is mimicked on the side of the truck. Are these two renditions of mountain ranges competing with each other? Which rendition do you like better? And let's not forget that both these renditions are paintings, and therefore idealized and fictitious. Moving right along, we get to Cars, 18 by 14 inches. The fall colors evidenced by the leaves, and the innocuous reminder that this is an urban setting with the cars as signifiers in the background. As we move into the painting, we can note both the flatness and three-dimensional goopy quality of the paint strokes, a similar strategy employed with the raindrop paintings, where the presence of foreground and background planes are subtly integrated. Further to a comment I made earlier, the composition demonstrates a strong lineage to the group of seven, in particular with Fred Varley, who lived in North Vancouver and the Lynn Valley of British Columbia. I wonder if it's reasonable to assume that artists who lived in the same area, despite differences in time periods or generations, would have similar reactions toward a place. Ben Reeves lived his early life in North Vancouver, so a familiarity with geography and place is a reasonable attribution. But time moves forward, environments change, and societies evolve. So I want to leave you with some food for thought regarding lineage and attribution. Anyway, next we have Moraine Lake, 18 by 24 inches, and this painting continues the group of seven influence that was discussed earlier. Moraine Lake is in the nearby province of Alberta. Beautiful painting, picturesque mountain view, and there's evidence of humanity in the tiny watercrafts on the lake. And just a reminder that it's mostly fiction, and perhaps Reeves and his family would have visited this place and painted it from memory. I have to admit, when I see contemporary artists exhibiting work which in my mind is influenced by or mimics the group of seven, I get into a defensive, even dismissive mode. Is that my fault? Is it a result of monetizing the image of the Canadian wilderness through the group of seven paintings? Perhaps it's capitalism's fault. Love it or hate it. Now we move on to peonies, 24 by 18 inches. This work with the peonies is rather exceptional in my opinion. With the light dancing around the flowers and leaves, the gradations of shadow as it plays in the background and foreground, and the consistency of the surface being flat and not jutting out of the canvas. That consistency with the paint and the skill of rendering perspectival planes give this painting an understated elegance. And I want to continue with that topic about the group of seven. I imagine that imagery is rather ubiquitous here in Canada. Their work is in every province and in many museum collections. It's accessible, but most importantly, it's a point of Canadian pride. On an international level, works by the group of seven is categorized as post-impressionist, and as most of the artists painted and started showing their work before and around World War I, the world was busily moving on. Most European nations will have a legacy of impressionistic and post-impressionistic styles of work, and Canada is no exception. And I think it's worthwhile looking at it from that viewpoint, specifically the genre of landscape painting and portraiture. And lastly, we look at West Fourth, 18 by 14 inches. I won't discuss this painting at length, as it shares similar sensibilities with the other works in the show. Besides, I'd like to briefly disclose something. Earlier, I said that 1997 was the year I first encountered Ben Reeves' work in a group show at Atelier Gallery in Vancouver, curated by his then University of British Columbia professor Robert Young. Titled Sightlines, New Artists, New Work, most of the artists in that show were recent BFA graduates, except for one. I was in that same exhibition, and also showing my work in a gallery for the first time. Professor Robert Young saw it fitting to include me in that show, so I suppose I was adopted as an honorary member of his graduating class. So, there we have it. Busted. And I think this is a good place as any to leave things. I hope you enjoyed this exhibition of oil paintings by Ben Reeves here at Equinox Gallery. If you'd like to share your thoughts, observations, questions, please do so in the comments section below. I'd really appreciate that. Click the like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's free, and as a non-monetized channel, subscribing achieves visibility and creates added awareness of the artist and the gallery. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great day, and I hope art continues to inform your life. Tune in again next time for more art-related videos. Goodbye!